Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Wednesday, 4th June 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. China is clamping down on the illegal export of rare earth minerals, strengthening its control over these vital resources as global supply concerns grow. The United States is increasing pressure on China concerning its dominance in critical mineral export. The OECD forecasts China's economic expansion at 430% for the coming year, despite continued trade disagreements. Regarding trade relations, President Trump has expressed doubt about a potential trade agreement with China, citing strained relations between the two countries. However, China and the European Union are set to hold trade discussions to address their economic impasse. Chinese stock markets are currently gaining from a global move away from US assets, although a structural economic slowdown and persistent deflationary pressures are impacting the outlook for the second half of 2025. In Egypt's West Minya, Chinese companies are using groundwater to irrigate a 500-hectare desert, backing the world's largest beet sugar factory, which gives Canal Sugar an annual production capacity of 900,000 tons. CIFI creditors have approved a $7.90 billion offshore debt restructuring plan. Ping An Insurance Group, China's largest insurer by market capitalization, plans to raise $11.77 billion. Use $1.50 billion via convertible bonds to fund the growth of its core business and support its healthcare initiatives. India is gearing up for a comprehensive population census, slated to begin in March 2027. The Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, has given the green light to 5 initial public offerings, IPOs, spanning various sectors, including Vikram Solar's WHAM 50, which aims to enhance solar production and upgrade manufacturing plants. The National Securities Depository Limited, NSDL, a key depository in India, is also preparing its own IPO. Attracted by significant block trades, foreign investors are showing renewed interest in the Indian market. On June 4, 2024, the Indian stock market saw a resurgence, with the Nifty 50 and Sensex both showing substantial gains, driven by robust performances from leading companies such as HDFC Bank. The shares of Bhatia Communications and Retail increased by almost 2% after reporting a 20% year-over-year profit increase, reaching Yalda 13.82 crore for FY25. Wednesday saw an overall positive trend in India stocks, with 108 stocks hitting 52-week highs, as investors anticipate a possible rate cut from the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, encouraged by positive global economic signals. Rishabh Nahar from Code Advisors recommends allocating 5-10% of investments to gold, citing potentially overvalued market conditions in India. In a strategic shift, India is reportedly moving away from Russian missiles, increasingly favoring U.S. military technology. The U.S. and Europe are in Paris for trade negotiations. They are trying to resolve a tense tariff dispute. This dispute has significant implications for the global economy. The EU continues to buy Russian fertilizer. This practice is now vital for European agriculture. This is happening despite the war in Ukraine. Brussels is addressing concerns about this trade relationship. Russia's Moscow exchange will introduce Bitcoin and cryptocurrency futures trade. This is for qualified investors only. Sberbank is also issuing Bitcoin bonds. The Russian services sector saw its fastest growth since January and May. This is based on PMI data. Russia is reportedly planning to deploy 10,000 troops in the Moldovan breakaway region. This warning comes from Moldova's Prime Minister. The troop deployment would escalate regional security concerns. Huawei Technologies' Pangu team has announced an advancement in AI training. It surpasses DeepSeek's approach. This uses Huawei's hardware despite the sanctions. The improvement involves the mixture of grouped experts, merged concept. Saudi Arabia's stock market showed positive movement before the Eid holidays. However, its IPO market faces challenges due to some weak initial performances, though Saudi Mechanical Industries Company, SMC, priced its IPO successfully after high investor demand. A separate IPO attracted $32 billion in orders following a dividend policy change. The country aims to raise $12.60 billion through bond issuances by the end of 2025. Saudi Pipes will distribute dividends on June 22nd, amounting to 10% of the nominal value. E-commerce is expected to see substantial growth, potentially reaching a $708.70 billion by 2033. Spar Saudi Arabia has launched its first Spar Express store in Riyadh. Gamachange is increasing its manufacturing capacity to 6 GBU domestically. A Saudi contractor also spearheaded a 405 billion won capital increase. For Kunyang, Australia's economic growth slowed in the first quarter, increasing by just 1.3% year-on-year. This has prompted the Reserve Bank of Australia to cut interest rates to a 2-year low, aiming to boost economic activity. Virgin Australia is preparing to relist on the stock market through a $443 IPO. Separately, a Westpac unit is nearing a settlement with the Australian Securities Regulator over conduct oversight issues. Shifting to the automotive sector, Tesla saw a surge in Australian electric vehicle sales in May, achieving a near 12-month peak despite global headwinds. Ukraine is receiving increased military aid from Western allies as the conflict with Russia continues. Following a bridge attack in Russia, which the Kremlin blames on Ukraine, President Putin has cast doubt on the possibility of peace negotiations. Russia has also initiated an investigation into a Ukrainian drone strike targeting Russian air bases. Meanwhile, the United States has granted the United Kingdom an exemption from additional metal tariffs. This move comes as the 50% levy on steel and aluminum imports, initially imposed by former President Donald Trump, has come into effect. South Korea saw its market surge following Lee's election victory, contributing to overall optimism in the region. The positive momentum in Seoul mirrored broader gains in Asian tech and auto sectors, fueled by hopes for improved trade conditions. However, this optimism was tempered by concerns over potential increases in US tariffs, creating a mixed sentiment among investors. Adding to the complexity, the rollout of steep steel and aluminum tariffs by then-US President Trump further impacted market sentiment across Asia. These factors, combined with a slight dip in the dollar and a decline in oil prices, contributed to a period of fluctuating performance in Asian markets. South Korea has a new president, Lee Jae-myung, of the opposition party. He promised to revive democracy. Lee also plans to implement pro-market and pragmatic policies. After his election, South Korean stocks rose. The market entered a bull phase, fueled by reform and stimulus hopes. However, inflation in South Korea was reported as the weakest in 5 months during May, failing to meet projections. Germany is focused on economic stimulation through tax incentives, including immediate tax breaks and planned future tax cuts to encourage investment. The German DAX stock index has correspondingly hit a record peak. However, the automotive industry faces headwinds, with Tesla registrations in Germany falling by more than 30% in May, compared to the previous year, indicating a potential downturn in the electric vehicle manufacturers' appeal in the country. Europe's stock markets are generally up, with Germany's DAX reaching a new high after a tax relief package passed. Chipmaker STMicro saw a 12% share price increase after announcing plans to cut 5,000 jobs. Meanwhile, discussions about tariff deals are ongoing. TikTok has suspended search results for the hashtag #SkinnyTok following concerns from European regulators about the glamorization of eating disorders. South Africa's economy saw slight gains in the first quarter of 2025. That business activity also showed strong growth, hitting a 4-year peak according to the Purchasing Managers' Index. Interest rate reductions helped boost consumer confidence, leading to a 22% surge in new vehicle sales in May. However, S&P Global Ratings has stated that South Africa needs faster economic growth to achieve a credit rating upgrade. On a brighter note, supermarket chain Spar has announced expansion plans, signaling optimism about the nation's financial future. The United States, under the Trump administration, has implemented tariffs impacting the global economy. Europe is also subject to these tariffs, facing economic challenges as a result. Turning to the UK, while exempt from the 50% steel tariff, it still faces a 25% duty due to the lack of a finalized trade deal with the United States. The OECD projects that these tariffs will slow global economic growth this year and next. Vietnam has abandoned its two-child policy in response to declining birth rates and an aging population, a demographic shift threatening economic growth. Furthermore, a Satex factory in Dong Nai, Vietnam, boasts a monthly production of 500,000 pairs of jeans, significantly surpassing the output of its counterpart in the United States by more than 7-fold. Canada is facing disruptions as Hudbay Minerals halts its Snow Lake, Manitoba operations due to ongoing wildfires. Meanwhile, IA Auto Finance has secured the second position in the non-captive, non-prime category of the J.D. Power 2024 Canada Dealer Financing Satisfaction Study for the 5th year running, demonstrating consistent performance in the financial sector. France is hopeful for reduced duties on French cognac, following discussions between China and French representatives, according to Guillaume Grosperin. Meanwhile, Pornhub has suspended its website operations in France in response to the country's new age verification law. This law requires adult content websites to verify users' ages, a measure Pornhub opposes, leading to the suspension. Abu Dhabi-based International Resources Holding, EIR, has secured controlling interest in Alphaman's tin complex in Congo, shifting focus to Saudi Arabia. Emirates NBD Capital KSA has received approval from the Capital Market Authority, CMA, for a fund offering. Turning to Brazil, the nation has re-entered international debt markets for the second time this year, and Simpler has also gained recognition as a certified payment institution, poised to enhance the local open finance ecosystem. Bulgaria is preparing to join the Eurozone in 2026, marking it as the 21st member of the EU's currency union. Meanwhile, in Colombia, major companies are pulling out of wind energy projects in La Guajira, hindered by regulatory changes, social challenges, and inadequate grid infrastructure. Czechia has cleared an $18 bill for the construction of at least 2 nuclear reactors, following an appeals court decision that overturned an earlier ruling which had blocked the government from finalizing an agreement with South Korea's main power utility. Egypt, alongside Saudi Arabia, is recognized as a favorable location for business in the Middle East, according to the GBCI 25 report. While its general authority for investment and free zones, Gafi engages in discussions with Saudi Arabia concerning construction sector collaboration. Hungary is contemplating a delay in the adoption of a bill aimed at non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and media outlets. In Indonesia, experts are advocating for the prioritization of electric vehicle adoption and a re-evaluation of unsustainable methanol projects, citing the country's aging vehicle fleet and humid climate as potential challenges for methanol fuel blend. Japan is seeing Pacific Investment Management Company, PIMCO, identifying value in its government bonds, despite recent selling activity, and law firm MoFo is expanding its private equity. Kazakhstan is strategically positioning itself as a key player through partnerships in the Middle East. The Netherlands is experiencing political upheaval as the Dutch government collapses following the withdrawal of right-wing leader Geert Wilders from the coalition, a mere 11 months after it was formed. House prices in Norway remained stable in May, signaling a cooling housing market. Poland's central bank has opted to maintain steady interest rates at its first meeting after a recent election. In Spain, the government has asserted that the housing market is not a free-for-all, following increased regulations on Airbnb. Sweden is set to become an AI hub, with Brookfield planning to invest $10 billion in its development. Microsoft has pledged its commitment to Switzerland's digital future. Taiwan is facing allegations that NVIDIA is recruiting engineers from TSMC, offering salaries up to $180,000, while a Taiwan-based tech company plans to create 500 jobs in Socorro. Gulf markets are largely performing well, boosted by the financial sector, with Dubai and Qatar leading the gains. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.